Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about our work, Dominating Set on Weakly Closed Graphs, and this is joint work with Daniel Obstiner. Let's begin with some definitions. A graph is said to be C-closed if for every pair of non-adjacent vertices, they share at most C common neighbors. And a slightly weaker notion, a graph is said to be weakly gamma closed if for every induced subgraph G dash, there exists a vertex such that for every other vertex that it is non-adjacent to, they share at most gamma common neighbors, right? So for example, a star is too closed because every non-adjacent pair of vertices share at most one common neighbor. Okay. And the closure of a graph G is the smallest C such that G is C closed. And the weak closure of a graph is the smallest gamma such that G is weakly gamma closed, right? So the closure and weak closure of a graph are relatively new parameters. So let's see motivation as to why they're useful. The closure of a graph is no more than max degree plus one. And also, the weak closure of a graph is no more than degeneracy plus one. It's easy to verify that these two properties are true. And also, these parameters can be computed in polynomial time. And it's well known that max degree and degeneracy are interesting parameters and they've been well studied in literature. And since closure and weak closure are no more than max degree and degeneracy respectively, these parameters are interesting to read. Further, closure and weak closure capture sparseness and triadic closure properties. What is the triadic closure property? So if you take a real world graph of friends, if two people share many common friends, then it's highly likely that they're friends themselves, right? That is the triadic closure property, and it's captured by these two parameters. Further, let's look at this table. The closure and weak closure have been measured for some real world social networks. And here, if you see a graph which has nearly 100,000 vertices, the third 100,000 edges, the third row has weak closure just 42, right? And similarly, the second graph here has 40,000 edges. The M column is the number of edges, but the weak closure is just 8. So the weak closure of a graph turns out to be small in real world graph and thus making it an interesting parameter to study from the FPT point of view as well. Okay, so let me give you a little bit more background about these parameters. So both these parameters were introduced by Jacob, Tim, Seshadri, Fan, and Nicole. And there's been a lot of work using both these parameters. Tomohiro, Christian, and Frank started a systematic study of FPT algorithms using closure and weak closure as parameters, right? And Eden and Tim have also done some work using closure as parameter. And in this work, we'll resolve an open question posed by Tomohiro, Christian, and Frank in their Isaac paper. Okay, so let's jump into the problem that we're dealing with in this talk. So we're dealing with dominating set problem. So let me quickly recall what is the dominating set. So dominating set is a set such that any vertex in the graph is either contained in the set or is adjacent to some vertex in the set, right? And the problem at hand is we are given a weakly gamma closed graph, and our task is to find whether there exists a dominating set of size at most k, right? So here the parameters are gamma and k. Tomohiro, Christian, and Frank asked the question whether dominating set in weakly gamma closed graphs is FPT when parameterized by gamma and k. So what does this mean? Whether there exists an algorithm for this problem running in time f of gamma comma k poly n. And we resolve this question with a yes, and that is what we'll see now. So our main result is an FPT algorithm for dominating set in weakly closed graphs that runs in time k to the gamma squared k cubed poly n time, right? And we also obtain other results along the way. We show that every weakly gamma closed graph has VC dimension at most 6 gamma. For those of you who know what VC dimension is for set system, the VC dimension of a graph is nothing but the VC dimension of the set system defined by the close neighborhoods of the vertices in G. What do I mean by this? It is the set system where universe is the set of all vertices in the graph, and the family contains the set which is the close neighborhood of a vertex for every vertex in the graph, right? Okay. And why is this interesting? Because we use the VC dimension bound to reduce our runtime from a double exponential runtime to a single exponential runtime. So we were able to get a better running time for the FPT algorithm, right? And then we could also use the bound on VC dimension to directly obtain a gamma log gamma k approximation for the dominating set problem, where k is the solution size, right? This was just by using known results for approximation for set cover on set systems of bounded VC dimension, right? Okay. But looking at this approximation algorithm, a natural question to ask is whether for a fixed gamma, there's a constant factor approximation for this problem. But it turns out that for fixed gamma, there can be no constant factor approximation. And we also show that in a paper. Okay. So let's move on to our main result. So for talking about dominating set, we need the notion of domination cores that we use for obtaining our algorithm. Okay, so this notion was introduced in 2009 by Anuj Dhawan and Stephen Kreutzer. Okay, so what is a K domination core? A K domination core of a graph is a set of vertices of the graph such that any set of size K that dominates this set dominates the whole graph. So, in some sense, just dominating this set is enough to dominate the whole graph. So, it's enough just to concentrate on this set and look for a dominating set of size at most k that dominates a domination core, right? So, a very trivial domination core is the set of all vertices in the graph, right? So, it's a very trivial domination core, but it's not very useful because it's a very large domination core, right? It contains all the vertices in the graph. So what we're looking for is a small size domination core. Okay. And let's further see why they're useful. So small domination cores directly imply or give us an FPT algorithm for dominating set, right? Let me give you a quick sketch of how we can obtain such an algorithm. So suppose we have a domination core bounded by size f of gamma comma k for some function f. Then we are searching for a dominating set of size at most k that dominates this domination core D, right? So now we are going to guess the neighborhood of every vertex in the domination core that we are looking for into this set D, right? And then after guessing the neighborhood, we just check whether there is a vertex in G that actually has that neighborhood into D. And we do this for every possible vertex in the dominating set we are searching for. So for at most k vertices, right? So how much? And in the end, we either get a dominating set of size at most k, or we can return no, right? And this takes 2 to the f of gamma k times k poly n time. Why is this? Because the number of possible neighborhoods into D is at most 2 to the size of D, right? So only so many subsets of D are there. So there are 2 to the f of gamma comma k neighborhoods or choices for every vertex in the dominating set, right? But when we use a VC dimension bound, we are able to get a better time complexity for the same algorithm. So using the bound of 6 gamma on VC dimension gives us a time complexity of f of gamma comma k to the 6 gamma times k. So for those of you who know VC dimension, this is just by this Shor-Shahla lemma. So what we get here is that the number of neighborhoods into the set D is at most the size of D times the VC dimension, right? So here that is just f of gamma k to 6 gamma because the bound on VC dimension is 6 gamma. So this helps us to reduce our runtime from double exponential to single exponential. Okay, so now that we have this, we won't be using VC dimension anymore in this talk. This is the only place that we use it in our paper. So from now on, we'll just focus on finding a small domination core. Okay, so now our goal is to find a K domination core of small size. For that, we're going to prove the following claim. So we're going to prove that every domination core which is big, right, which has size at least k to the order gamma k squared, contains at least one vertex W, which when removed results in a set which is still a domination core, right? And that this W can be found efficiently, right? So we are going to see how we are going to use this to get an algorithm, right? So we start out with a very trivial domination core, that is the set of all vertices, right? And then as long as our domination core has large size or is greater than B, by our claim, we can find a vertex W such that removing it from the domination core results in a set which is still a domination core. So we find such a W and then remove it from the domination core and proceed with the loop again. Okay. Finally, when W is less than or equal to B, we find a dominating set of size at most K that dominates W using the algorithm I mentioned in the previous slide. If one exists, otherwise we just return no. Right? Simple. So this is the algorithm. So now we are left with proving this claim. Right? Let's observe this claim from a different perspective. So what is this talking about? So the claim is just talking about minimal domination cores, right? So what is a minimal domination core? A minimal domination core is a domination core from which you cannot remove any vertex such that the set is still a domination core, right? Yeah. So basically what this claim tells us is that the size of any minimal domination core in G is bounded by size B, right? If we think about it, that is all this claim tells. And it also says that if you're given a bigger size domination core, you can always find a vertex to remove from it such that you can find a domination core. So the second part of finding the vertex can be done using standard techniques if we have a bound on the size of minimal domination cores. So from now on, we're just going to concentrate on bounding the size of minimal domination cores. Okay, for that, we are going to define another notion called K-threshold sets. Okay, pretty soon you'll see why we are defining this notion. So vertex set is a K-threshold set if for every vertex, right, for every vertex in the set, there exists a set of size at most K such that this set dominates everything in S except that vertex, right? So for every vertex V, there is a set XV which dominates everything in S except V, right? Yeah, every set of size at most K. Okay, but why are we defining this? The notion of defining this comes from the property of minimal domination cores, right? So what is a minimal domination core? A minimal domination core is a domination core from which you cannot remove any vertex such that the resulting set is a domination core, right? What does that mean? That implies that there exists a set XV for every vertex V in the domination core of size at most K, which dominates everything in S except V. If this is not true, then you can remove the vertex and it'll still remain a domination core, right? So that property motivates us to define K threshold sets. Therefore, every minimal domination core is a K threshold set. Yeah. But why are K threshold sets even more useful? It's because every subset of a K threshold set is also a K threshold set, right? So now just bounding the size of K threshold sets in weakly closed graph bounds the size of minimal domination core, which gives us an algorithm that I showed you in the previous slide. So our goal is just to bound the size of K threshold sets, right? And because of the property that it's closed under subgraphs, that is every subset of a K threshold set is a K threshold set, it allows us to dig for structure. We start with a big K threshold set, keep focusing or narrowing on the subset of this K threshold set, which gives us some structure, and that will help us bound the size of K threshold sets. Okay. So now we are going to bound the size of K threshold sets, and our claim is that every K threshold set in a weakly gamma closed graph has size at most K to the gamma K squared, right? So we're going to see how to prove this. So we start with a large K threshold set, and the first pre-processing step that we need is that every K threshold set contains a large independent set. Yeah. So we start with a K threshold set, and then we extract a large independent set out of it, right? So for this, what we do that we prove that if we start with a large K threshold set W, then G of W is a degenerate graph for some B, and then using that we show that GW has a large independent set, and from now on we'll assume that the large K threshold set that we start with is independent. So we have an independent large K threshold set. Okay. Then we start with this independent large K threshold set and use Ramsey theory to extract from it another subset which is highly symmetric, and we use that subset to prove that there is an induced graph that is not weakly gamma closed. Okay. So we'll go into these last 2 points in more detail in the next few slides. Okay. So now our goal is we are given a large independent K threshold set, and we want to extract a highly symmetric K threshold set. Okay. So for that, we are going to use Ramsey theory. So for using Ramsey theory, we are first going to construct an auxiliary graph. Okay. So we start with W, which is an independent K threshold set. And now the structure of W along with, so remember the definition of K threshold sets, right? So for every vertex Wi in W, you have a set XWI of size at most K, which dominates every vertex in W except Wi, right? So now imagine that imagine that you know all these W's, XWIs, right? For every vertex in W, this is how it will look, right? So you have this set W, and you have all the vertices in W, W1, W2, and so on. And for everything, you know the corresponding set, right? So these XWI and XWJ might intersect for two vertices, but for just for visualization purpose, we have drawn the non-intersecting sets here. Okay, so now we have the structure, and now we are going to use this to construct an auxiliary graph on which we can apply Ramsey theory. Okay, so now we are going to construct auxiliary graph H, which is a clique and has colors on edges, right? So we are going to construct this graph H, which has colors on edges. Okay, so now the main point is how are we going to color these edges, right? So now how do we color the an edge between W and WJ in W? Okay, so this graph H has vertex at W. Okay, so now before that, let me tell you that XWIs are ordered, right? Assume that all the vertices in XWI for each XWI is ordered arbitrarily. Okay, so now we have the following entries in the color. Okay, so now we are coloring the edge between Wi and Wj, which is a tuple with the following entries. So we have one entry for the number r such that the rth vertex in XWI dominates Wj. And observe that such an vertex must exist because W is a K threshold set and XWI dominates every vertex in W except Wi, right? And if there are more than one vertex, we just use one of them, right? And similarly, we have an entry for the number S such that the Sth vertex of XWJ dominates Wi. So in this diagram, you can see what is the rth vertex that dominates Wj and what is the Sth vertex that dominates Wi, right? And then for each pair of vertex in the multiset, in the multiset of these vertices, so basically this multiset consists of all the green colored vertices, right? So basically Wi, Wj, XRWI, XRWJ, XSWI, and XSWJ, right? And for each pair of these vertices, we have an entry to denote whether they are the same vertex or if they're different, whether they're adjacent or non-adjacent, okay? And this is our coloring. Yeah. And with this coloring, we use Ramsey theory on H, a multicolor version of it to obtain a sufficiently large monochromatic clique, right? And once we have a monochromatic clique, we know that all the edges in this graph have the same color, right? So that implies that all the entries corresponding to the tuple of these vertices, that is the color, have the same entries, right? So this gives us more structure. So now this monochromatic clique corresponds to a subset of W, right? By the definition of H, this monochromatic clique, the vertices corresponds to some subset of W, and that is also a K threshold set, W dash. And using W dash, we can obtain these three pattern graphs, which we can show to be not weakly closed. Okay, so and in this diagram, the black edges denote that they definitely must be there in the graph, and the red edges are non-edges in the graph, so they are definitely not there in the graph, right? And the way we show these graphs to be not weakly closed is by identifying a buddy for each vertex. So how do you identify what is a buddy? A buddy is a vertex that is non-adjacent to your vertex but shares many common neighbors, right? So if we show that every vertex has a buddy, then the graph is not weakly gamma closed, right? Okay. So what did we do? We started with a large K threshold set and finally obtained an induced subgraph, which is not weakly gamma closed, right? But because our graph is a weakly gamma closed graph, this contradicts that we started with weakly gamma closed graph, right? So therefore, we have proved that we cannot have a large threshold set, right? So the size of our threshold set is bounded, and that completes our proof. Okay, to summarize, we have an FPT algorithm for dominating set in weakly gamma closed graphs that runs in time k to the gamma squared k cube poly n. And we also have the bound on VC dimension of weakly gamma closed graph to be at most 6 gamma. And we can show that this bound is tight up to the constant factor 6 because there exist graphs which have VC dimension gamma. Okay. And one interesting open question in this domain is whether dominating set admits a polykernel for fixed gamma. That is, whether dominating set admits a kernel of size k to the f of gamma for some function f. Thank you.